शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. So in the last session we saw more about Puranas, or 2 sessions we have had till now, wherein we saw the introduction as well as few more features of Puranas. What is the need of Puranas? Why were the even Puranas written, or why were they even compiled by Vedavyasa? Now, the session that we had last time, that is yesterday, there were a few questions towards the end. Let us start today's session with that, and then we'll start with one Purana. That is the segregation or the division of Puranas into different categories. That is Sattva or Vaishnava, Brahma and Shiva, or something called Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Now what was the reason for that? There are many reasons. Few reasons I told you yesterday. There is one more reason which by seeing the Puranas that were there in that category, I could make out. Of course, this is a prediction or an assumption that I am making. That is maybe because of the nature, or because now I told you all the Puranas are in story form. So in the Tamasic Puranas, mainly like for example the Markandeya Purana and so on, there are a few stories that depict a lot of fights, a lot of wars. So especially incidents or stories that talk or that are Tamasic. Tamasic is mainly negative qualities in us. So like that, it might be one reason why the segregation is done in that way, wherein all Sattvic or Srimad Bhagavatam for that matter is not too much into war also. It just talks about the stories of Krishna. So by reading the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam, we won't get a no negative thought, or maybe no war-like situation, nothing like that. So just plain stories you're reading, good qualities. That is Sattva. Rajasic, the Puranas might be a combination of both, maybe a bit of negative emotions as well as positive qualities, virtues and vices. And Tamasic Puranas mostly. Now, war also we cannot avoid. Like for example, the Mahabharata, just because it talks about the war or a few incidents which are not too positive or which are a bit negative, like maybe the Draupadi incident or so. But that doesn't mean that we cannot read that or we should not read that, right? So, but it is a bit Tamasic in nature, so therefore they form a part of Tamasic Puranas. So this can be one assumption why the Puranas are segregated into Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Okay. Now again with regards to this, because the topic of Mahabharata comes, Mahabharata also many people say that you should not keep it at home, you should not keep the books at home, it leads to fights and all that. Without keeping the Mahabharata also we are fighting anyways. So this is a very, you can say, a nonsense thing that people believe in, very illogical. So of course there are many reasons. A very practical reason why the Mahabharata cannot be kept at home is maybe because of the original Mahabharata I'm talking about. It is 1 lakh verses, more than 1 lakh verses if you combine the Harivamsha Purana also. Then the size of the books with the size of our houses now, where you stay, depends on that. People have a problem in keeping those books. That is the reason why maybe the Mahabharata is not much found. But still, yes, there are people who still have the Mahabharata. So not keeping the Mahabharata at home because it leads to fights, all this is just superstitions and we should not go into this way. So again, coming back to our topic of Puranas, so this might be one of the reasons why the Puranas are divided into these 3 categories of Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic, maybe because of the nature of the content that they have in them. Okay, so we have seen a lot of features, we talked a lot about Puranas, why they are segregated, how to identify them and so on. Now we will start looking at, I told you also a bit about the 18 Upa Puranas, just their names also we saw yesterday. So now today we will start looking at one of the Puranas. We are going to start with the Brahma Purana. Now I am not following any order as such. Now there can be no order. Like for example, some people go by the shloka that we learn. Madhvayam, Bhadvayam, Chaiva. That one, maybe that is first is Matsya Purana. You can start with that. But there is no hard and fast rule for this. So you can read, you can look at any Purana first. So I thought first let us start with the Brahma Purana. So we'll be looking at Brahma Purana. So first I'll tell you the contents of Brahma Purana in short, and then we will I'll tell you its contents also. Now there might be a question again that are we going to look at every verse? Now in all, if you see Brahma Purana for that matter, if you take as an example, Brahma Purana has got 10,000 verses. If we start looking at every verse, then we'll never finish, right? It will be never ending. So we are going to look at all the Puranas in short, but at the same time that doesn't mean that we look now. These are just a few points that I have put in for you to remember, like a summary or so. So what are the contents of Brahma Purana? Just by looking at this we get a rough idea. So this will be like handy for you. So this is just like a handy note which will be helpful. But again, we should not look at anything too short also, not too long. So I will tell you about the Brahma Purana in short, the main stories that are there, and the PDF that you can see, in that I have prepared a few notes which will be helpful in case you want to know about the Brahma Purana in short. So mainly first we'll look at the Brahma Purana. Now Brahma Purana has got in all 10,000 verses. 10,000 verses. Now we cannot call this as the smallest Purana, but one of the small Puranas, because Skanda Purana and also Srimad Bhagavata Purana have got almost 18,000 verses. So amongst that, not very small, but to some extent the Brahma Purana is a small Purana. It contains about 10,000 verses. Now all these numbers that I am telling you, you can make a note of it, but like it will not be, okay, now if I count, will it exactly be 10,000? There might be a few numbers up and down. So yes, that is going to be there as per the different references, as per different publications that we refer to. So 10,000 roughly you can consider. Another name for Brahma Purana is also the Adi Purana. Adi Purana means the most ancient Purana, or the one of the earlier Puranas. So that is Adi Purana. Then another name for Brahma Purana is Shaura Purana, because it talks about Shaura. Now Shaura is related to Surya, something which relates to god Surya or the sun god, that is called Shaura. So another name for the Brahma Purana is Shaura Purana, because Shaura Purana or Brahma Purana contains many chapters relating to Surya or related to the sun god. So not the entire Purana, but there are a few chapters that are dedicated to this. Therefore, another name for Brahma Purana is also Shaura Purana. Now, the entire Purana is in Sanskrit language, we all know. Now, there is one special feature. Now, though the Purana is named as Brahma Purana, as we discussed in the first sessions also, that the title of the Puranas has got nothing to do with the subject matter. So, similarly here also, though the Brahma Purana has got the name of Brahma, the text has got nothing to do with Hindu god Brahma. So this is one feature of this. So just by looking at the name, we should not feel that okay, it is Brahma Purana, so it will deal only with Brahma. No. In fact, the Brahma Purana, there might be a few references here and there, but apart from that, that is about creation. Brahma Purana talks a bit about creation. So there we find some reference related to Brahma. Apart from that, there has got nothing to do much with Brahma. The entire Brahma Purana contains approximately 245 chapters. Again, numerical values, you can make a note of it. There might be a few ups and downs. About 245 chapters are there entirely in the Brahma Purana. And mainly the Brahma Purana is more of a travel guide. So mainly information on different pilgrimage places, or like you can see in the screen that I've shared, sacred places of India are mentioned. That is nothing but pilgrimage places, and some mention has been given to the state of Odisha or Odisha. Ancient name of the state of Odisha was Utkala. That is why it has been mentioned here. So we find some reference to this place also. So mainly the contents of the Brahma Purana include related to creation of the world, how was the world created, then starting from the first man, that is Swayambhuva Manu and his wife Shatarupa, Then it talks about all the other creations, the Prajapatis and so on. We will look at all this in detail. And different Manvantaras. Yesterday I told you what exactly is a Manvantara. That is, different time periods are discussed. Then the creation of various continents and lokas. Brahmaloka, Vaikuntha, Shivaloka, Earth, Heaven, Hell and so on. All that has been discussed. Then it is more of a travel guide. It mentions the different sacred places and pilgrimage sites of India. And some reference has also been given to the state of Odisha. Now, they're all states, of course, they have their own special culture or some speciality of every state. Now, Odisha, we have the famous Rath Yatra or the Jagannath Puri temple and so on. So, references to all these things has been mentioned in the Brahma Purana. Now, further it is said that mainly this is one of those Puranas that dedicates about 60 to 70% of its contents on geography rather than history. Now, this is a special feature of this Purana. The reason being, now mostly all our, be it even religious literature or any kind of literature, mainly focuses more on the history part, right? Maybe lineage of different kings and so on. What exactly this place had in its ancient times. So mainly literature deals with history. But Brahma Purana is one of those few texts that describe more about geography. So mainly information about different rivers, how a particular river originated in India, for example the Godavari, Ganga and so on. So all this has been mentioned. Then the text dedicates, along with the state of Odisha, it talks mainly about the Godavari river, its tributaries and places associated with the Godavari river. That is mainly the states of central India, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. Now, Godavari river is mainly associated with the Trimbakeshwara Jyotirlinga in Nasik, Maharashtra. So, there you find a lot of reference to the area, this nearby area, and also a bit of Rajasthan. So, mainly Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. This place is dealt, or a lot of information with regards to these states, mainly wherein the Godavari river flows, that has been mentioned in the Brahma Purana. Then temples in praise of Lord Vishnu, Shiva, goddess and Surya mainly. I told the Purana is also called Shaurya Purana. So we get a lot of information with regards to temples dedicated to Vishnu, Shiva and Devi or goddess. Then because it talks mainly about the state of Odisha, it gives a lot of reference given to the famous Jagannath temple in Puri, Odisha. Then it also, because it deals with the sun god, which temple has to be mentioned? Can anyone guess? Konark Sun Temple. So that has to be mentioned in the Brahma Purana because Brahma Purana talks about the state of Odisha. At the same time, it talks about the sun god. So Konark Sun Temple is in Puri, Odisha. Plus, it is also dedicated to the sun god. So we find a lot of reference to the Konark Sun Temple in the Brahma Purana. Then further, it also talks about other continents. It describes about the 7 continents. Today, the 7 continents that are there, Australia, Europe, America and so on. This has been mentioned there, but 7 dweepas, it is called as Sapta dweepas. So the text, today's geographical map that we have and the definition of 7 continents is quite different, or you can say not exactly different, but the names are a bit, like you will not find the names of Australia, Europe, America and Asia there. You will find different names. For example, Jambu Dweepa, all of us live. So Asia is like Jambu Dweepa. Jambu Dweepe, Bharata Varshe, Bharata Khande. We chant all this in Sankalpa, right? So now you might have a comparison. Is Jambu Dweepa equal to Asia? Yes, it is equal to Asia, but the geography has changed. Today's India and India before independence was different. Today's geographical map of India and before independence, the geographical map of India is different. Before independence, we had Pakistan, Bangladesh, also Nepal as a part of India. Today we don't have them. So therefore the geographical map has changed. So like this, the same thing, even 75 years down the lane, our maps have changed. So you can imagine the reference that has been made thousands of years back. So the geography of course has changed. So of course that doesn't mean that it will be too much change. Okay, Asia has become America. No, that's not that way. But of course, you might find a few states or a few countries that have been separated. That might be there. But the reference or even the concept of the seven continents, that is also being mentioned in the Brahma Purana. The names of seven continents as per the Brahma Purana: Jambu Dvipa, that is mainly in the central part. So that is surrounding the mountain Meru, that is said. Now this Meru is like, you can say it is, as per our scriptures and Puranas, it is not a mountain which we can geographically find anywhere. You can so-called imaginary, you can say we have the Meru at home, that is goddess which whom we worship. But the Meru Parvata, or during the Kurma Avatara, we had the Mandara mountain. So the Meru is said to be the center of the universe, and the Jambu Dvipa is surrounding the Meru mountain. This is what is a belief or the faith that we have. Then there are many other continents also. For example, Africa. Then you have some part Krauncha. There is a place like Jambu Dvipa. Another continent name is called Krauncha. Area surrounding the Black Sea. That is one place. Then Plaksha. 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 This is another continent surrounding the Mediterranean Sea. Then you have Kusha, Kusa, pronunciation is Kusha, surrounding Iran, Iraq, all those Middle East, those countries. So like this, there Pushkara, another name called Pushkara. This Pushkara has got to do nothing with the Pushkar in Rajasthan, where we have Lord Brahma's temple. That is different. Pushkara is also name of a continent which covers the whole of Japan, that part. Japan, Siberia, such countries. So like this, all this, I'm not getting too much into detail, otherwise we'll not have time. So like this, 7 different continents are mentioned in the Brahma Purana. So you see there is so much of content in that, we don't know about so many things in that. For us, we can remember our country is located in Jambu Dvipa. Now the exact contents, if you look of Brahma Purana, I told you there are about 245 chapters. Now out of these 45 chapters, mainly about 18 to 20 chapters of the Brahma Purana deal mainly with cosmology, that is all this creation, mythology, genealogy, manvantaras, different manvantaras, time periods, from where the creation started, how it moved about, how different worlds were created, how different lokas were created. So about 18 to 20 chapters deal with this. Then further there are other chapters that talk about geography of the earth, then a bit of Sankhya and Yoga. Sankhya by Kapila Muni, Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya and Yoga, they are always out of the 6 Vedanga Shastras that we have. Sankhya and Yoga Shastram, Maharshi Patanjali. Sankhya Yoga told by Kapila Maharshi. Kapila Muni. Brahma Purana also talks about that. Then geography of the earth has been told. Then Dharma Shastra, bit of how good conduct should be there. Like for example, we have the Manusmriti, right? So how should a householder live? What is the duties of a student? What are the duties of a teacher? What are the duties of a father, parent, child, and so on? So all that is Dharma Shastra. Little bit of summary also we find in the Brahma Purana. Then there are a few chapters of the Brahma Purana that I already told you. They discuss about temples and pilgrimage sites. Then to be exactly, if you want the numbers, somewhere if I'm not wrong, chapters from about 38 to 40, 38, 39, 40. From that range you can consider 35 to 40. They mainly talk about Shaura Purana, or they mainly deal with chapters related to Surya Bhagwan, sun god or Lord Surya. So these chapters mainly talk about Lord Surya. Further we find that, so you see, this is how the entire Brahma Purana has been divided. A few chapters talking about the creation, different lokas, different worlds, different continents. Few chapters dealing with geography. Few chapters dealing with temples and pilgrimage spots. And ultimately few chapters related to the sun god incidents and stories. So this is how the entire Brahma Purana has been divided. Now the main speciality of the Brahma Purana is that it has got a lot of reference to the Godavari river and also the Chambal river in Rajasthan. Now, why this Chambal river has been mentioned? Now, Godavari, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, these are all, you can say, very popular rivers, right? Even Krishna, Bhima, and so on. But that doesn't mean that these are the only rivers flowing in India. There are thousands of rivers. We don't know the names of all the rivers. Why so? Because a few rivers, they have become popular, or maybe they are associated with some pilgrimage sites. For example, Ganga. Take a dip in the Ganga, right? Ganga Snanam, or maybe Yamuna. So like this, or even the Narmada Yatra, Narmada Parikrama that people do. So like this, few incidents or few topics we know or we are familiar with that. But not all rivers are important. Like for example here, the Chambal river of Rajasthan. Maybe we would have heard about the name, but it is not that important. Then why is it also mentioned in the Brahma Purana? This question might come. The reason being, we have only one temple dedicated to Lord Brahma, that is in Rajasthan, Pushkar town of Rajasthan. And this entire Pushkar, it's a small town, but the entire town contains about 500 temples. In that, one of the main temples is the Brahma temple. So though I told you Brahma Purana does not deal much with Lord Brahma, but still it has got some reference to this Chambal temple mainly, because the Chambal river flows through the state of Rajasthan, and in the state of Rajasthan we have a temple dedicated to Lord Brahma, and it is the only one temple in India dedicated to Lord Brahma. So this is one of the reasons, or you can say one assumption again, that why some reference of the Chambal river we find in the Brahma Purana. So now these are a few facts that are with regards to the Brahma Purana. Now, though I told you that the Brahma Purana in all contains 10,000 verses, now most of the books do have 10,000 verses, but still if actually we go and find out the original manuscripts and all, we find about 7,000 and 8,000 verses that are there. And so it depends on different versions. Like these are all Puranas, right? So though Vyasa has compiled them, it was said originally that all these there was only one Purana. I told you in the first session itself, Vyasa did the work of compilation of into 18, right? And further it has been divided into Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic for an easy understanding, for easy study of the masses. So originally it is said that there was only one text called Puranas which had more than 1 crore verses. And out of that, Vyasa has done a lot of compilation. He has brought them down to 4 lakh verses, and that has further been divided into 18 Puranas. So from that 1 crore to reduce it to 4 lakhs, that is a task. So in that, Vyasa would have chosen, okay, which are the most important incidents. Few things are not needed. It's not that important. We need not mention. So maybe he would have removed all that. He would have taken away all that. So in the course, now we don't know where are those remaining. Now what we have in hand is those 4 lakh. We don't know, we don't have any reference with regards to the original 1 crore verses, right? Maybe if we do a lot of research, we might find it too. But at least currently we don't have, we refer only to the 4 lakh verses. So because of this, it has given rise to different versions that are there. Because now if there are 10 people who are 10 scholars who are there, they might pick up verses from different versions. But usually people stick to the original version only. But in the course of time, as changes take place, even in publications and so, we find different versions. So that is why I told you, with regards to the numerical values, you can take a bit up and down. So this is just a rough background that we saw about Brahma Purana. Did everyone understand till here? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Okay.
Answer, Ajima. I have a doubt. Very clear explanation.
Okay.
Very clear and
Okay.
Lakshmi, I had a doubt also.
Who has a doubt? You asked that.
Yeah, actually you were saying it talks about Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. So, what does it talk about Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan?
The main places that are there, or the geography of the part, that mainly it talks. So mainly now when I say it talks about a particular place, you find some reference of that place. Maybe Maharashtra, Rajya, it will just give one line that is there. So maybe a few temples in that place, or a few guides, some story. Now the entire Puranas are in the form of stories. So it might give some reference to a story in the state of Maharashtra, or it might talk about a pilgrimage spot in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Now in the state of Rajasthan, when it talks, it gives reference to the Chambal river. That's it. So it might not deal with the entire state, but little reference is just given to the place. So it might be a story, or it might be a story of a person who lived there, of a family who lived there, or it might be of a pilgrimage spot or a particular place in that state, or maybe a reference to a river also. So it can be anything. Okay? Yeah. Now further, Sahanaji, is your doubt clear? Yeah. Now the Brahma Purana is also said to be divided into two parts, Purva Bhaga and Uttara Bhaga. Just as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th skanda, we have something called the first skanda, and the 10th skanda is divided into two parts, right? Similarly, here also the Brahma Purana is divided into two parts, Purva Bhaga and Uttara Bhaga. Now, what exactly or why is this division even needed? Like, does the Purva Bhaga focus on certain topics and does the Uttara Bhaga focus on certain topics? It is nothing of that sort. They are not at all related. Like, you cannot segregate both the topics. Okay, Purva Bhaga deals with this, Uttara Bhaga deals with this. No, that cannot be done. Only it is just the division has been done, that maybe half you can divide it. That's it. So, and as per my study that I did, I could not find any reference that why the division has been made into Purva Bhaga and Uttara Bhaga. And in fact, some books do not even have this division. It is just one entire text of 10,000 verses containing approximately 245 chapters. So, this division into two parts, two bhagas, that has also been skipped in many books, because as such we couldn't find any topic why the division was even necessary. Now the Brahma Purana is also said to have borrowed certain parts from the Mahabharata and also certain parts from the Vishnu and Vayu Purana, it is said so. So the Brahma Purana, so a few passages or a few words, few stories, we find similarity as taken from the Vishnu and the Vayu Puranas and also from Mahabharata. Now the reason being the why so, you might have a question, right? If you are going to read the same thing in the Vishnu, Vayu Purana and the Mahabharata, why should the same thing be talked about even in the Brahma Purana? Now Puranas are like the condensation, or you can say they are all a part of the Itihasas only, starting from the Vedas, Vedangas, Itihasas, Puranas. So Puranas, it's not going to be something totally different, right? Okay, whatever has been told in the Vedas, that I will never be included in the Itihasas, that will never be included in the Puranas. Subject matter of all the three will be completely different. Each of them have got to do nothing to do with each other. It is not so. As we saw, all these three are related to each other. Of course, in some places we will find some similarity or a few topics that are similar, few stories that are similar. But remember one thing, there might be a few differences in the stories, because in the course of time the story gets different. Now I'll tell you one simple example for this. Maybe as kids, or even I don't know how many of you have heard about this game, there is something called Chinese whispers, right? I don't know if you have heard this name. I'll just tell you what it is. Now it might have different names, wherein all of us, we sit in a circle and you have to tell something in someone's ear, right? You tell something, it can be anything. You tell it to the next in the next person's ear. Whatever, you have to tell that only once. You can do that. Whatever the person hears, he tells that to the next. And that's how it just passes about. And by the time it reaches the last person has to say that aloud. And then you have to see what was originally said by the first person, and by the time it reached the last person, it turns out to be something different. Or many times it turns out to be something which is totally not at all related. It might be a completely different thing, or it might be even gibberish, right? So
Yes, ma'am. We played like this.
so like this, people do play.
The secret.
It can be anything, whatever you call it. So why I'm telling you this is, the same thing happens with all these scriptures and books also. Now that doesn't mean you have to tell it in the ear of someone, but the way people in the course of time, the way one person understands, in the sense, now though this is not that we tell into someone's ear, but now say for example I read a book, I read Brahma Purana, and all of us now, all the 65 people here, we tell all of us, okay, you have to read the Brahma Purana, and whatever you have understood, you have to write. Everyone's understanding will be different. If we are all commentators, we all write commentaries on the Brahma Purana, we publish our own books, right? So there will be about 65 books that have been published. Not even one book will be similar. It will not be similar at all. Nothing can be same. It can be similar but not same. Now that doesn't mean that we have written something out of context, like okay, 65 people have written a commentary on the Brahma Purana. So yes, the topic deals with Brahma Purana. You will say it deals with cosmology. It has 10,000 verses. It has 245 chapters. All these which are facts, we will write as it is. But as per our understanding, maybe a few things in the stories will go up and down, or our way of understanding little bit of our own imagination and creativity, each one of us will put into it, right? Now the readers who read this, it's not that all the 65 books that have been published, only one person can read it, but different people will read that. That's how different versions are created. Topic is the same. So then the matter is the same. All of us have read the same Brahma Purana book. But if all of us are told to write on a particular topic, there are going to be differences. That is how this concept of different versions comes in. I am telling you this is, many people, they get confused. Or say that how can there be so many differences, right? Or even it can be even in the case of Ramayana, Mahabharata and so on. For this is one good example. Now, always it doesn't happen. That's why we have to always refer to the original text. Because when we refer to commentaries, it leads to all these problems. Because the commentator writes as per his understanding. And everyone's understanding, we have to learn someone else's understanding. Instead of that, if we read the original text, we can make conclusions as per our own understanding. But to read the original text, that if you have to read it in Sanskrit, you have to have knowledge of Sanskrit. Right? So like this, there are this is how different versions to take place. But for this, does this mean that I should not read commentaries? Of course we must read commentaries. The reason being, just by reading the original text. Now if you read the original Brahma Purana having 10,000 verses, you will just find the translation of the verses. But a few things have to be understood in detail. For that you have to read commentaries. Commentaries on the Ramayana, if you read, you will enjoy. There is nothing more than that. Because for just one example I will give you from the Ramayana. Why the importance of commentaries is important. This I have told maybe in other sessions too. So for people who know, it will be a repetition. The payasa that comes out after Dashratha does the Putra Kameshti Yajna, it is mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana, Valakanda, that the payasa that came out, the pot which the person bought from the sacrificial pit, it was gold. It was a golden pot with a silver lid, or a silver pot with a golden lid, whatever you take it. Why should Valmiki mention this with so much of detail? A silver pot with a golden lid, or a silver vessel with a golden lid. Why so? Was there any reason for this? He could have mentioned he just bought it in a pot, right? Or he bought it in a small vessel, small bowl, and Dashratha gave it to his queens. That's how all the 4 children were born. Why so much of detail has been mentioned by Valmiki? And why gold and silver both? Or else, okay, if Valmiki had to mention that the bowl had been bought, he could have mentioned, okay, in a golden bowl or in a silver bowl. Gold bowl, silver bowl. No. Gold, silver bowl with a gold lid. Why so? The reason, does anyone know the reason?
Yeah, I think that is because gold will retain heat and silver, so it has to be half, neither too hot nor too cold. It's like
correct. So this is a reason why it has been mentioned. So now only when we know about this, we can. Now this, some people know, not everyone is smart like Divya ji, right? That immediately looking at this translation we can interpret. But when it has been mentioned by Govindacharya or Tilakacharya, these are commentators who have written commentaries on the Ramayana, they write here that Valmiki has mentioned this so much in detail for this reason, so that the temperature of the payasa is properly maintained. Gold has heat properties, silver has cooling properties. That is why young children are given food in silver spoons, silver pots and so that the temperature of the food is properly maintained and the queens can immediately have that. So like this, there are so many interpretations. There is one more interpretation of the Ramayana if we talk about, okay, our topic is not Ramayana, but still, because the topic has come in and tell. A few people argue, saying that in the Valmiki Ramayana, again Valmiki mentions that after eating the payasa, all the 3 queens, they conceived immediately and children were born to them. How come? Is it magic that the payasa was eaten by Kaushalya, Rama came out? Payasa was eaten by Sumitra, Lakshmana, Shatrughna came out. Payasa was eaten by Kaikeyi, Bharata came out. No. This payasa just proved to be like a help. So it was just blessed by the sages that if you do this sacrifice and if your queens consume this payasa, it will be easy for them to conceive. That doesn't mean that it is something like a magic. So later when Dasharatha and the queens tried, it became easy for the queens to conceive, and then that's how Rama was born. So that doesn't mean that Dasharatha and the queens gave up their efforts. Okay, they were just sitting and suddenly the payasa was being eaten and from somewhere, nowhere out of magic Rama was born. No. So just because Valmiki has not mentioned this in detail, ignorant people assume that all this is magic, Ramayana is all false and fantasy, I should not read it. So things that we do, the same thing. Now all of us also, okay, for a couple, my son is not getting married, so I'll go and do some puja. My son is not, a child is not being born to my son, so I'll go and do some puja. You do the puja, out of magic the child is not born, right? Efforts are still being put. Now if you want your son to be married, you're continuously searching for a bride, right? Now even maybe someone tells you do a puja or so, chant a particular mantra, your son will get married. We do chant, we do the puja, everything, but that doesn't mean that we stop putting in efforts for looking for a bride. Bride will not come of her own. We have to put in efforts, right? So it is the same thing here also. But how ignorant people, they don't understand this. They will sit and argue saying that how all this has been mentioned by Valmiki. So Valmiki and Vyasa, not everywhere. In certain places they go too much in detail, like the golden and silver pot incident I told you. In certain places, for example, now I'm not blaming Valmiki, but how will he explain? Okay, 9 months, it is not medical science here. What happens to the child? Rama is being born, he took a sonography, 3 months his eyes were being seen, 6 months nose is being seen. All this detail he has not mentioned directly. He talks about Chaitra Mase Navami Dine Rama is born. That's what he talks about. So like this is the the conclusion, the point I'm saying is the importance of commentaries comes here when we have to interpret the meanings properly. But while writing commentaries, 10 different people write on a particular book, there are going to be different opinions. For example, now all of us also, 70 people are there. There is one topic that is given. If I ask you your opinion, all 70 people will have 70 different opinions. For example, a simple question I'll ask you, should we have the class instead of next Saturday, should we have it on next Friday? 50% will tell yes, 50% will tell no, 50% will say, I'll tell you the time also. What time? Next Friday can we have the class? If I ask all of you at what time, 70 people will have 70 different opinions. One will say 7 o'clock, one will say 8 o'clock, one will say no, don't have, only it's a weekday. You have told Saturday, how come on Friday? Some people will say no, I am not come, you are recording it, I will listen to the recording. There are different opinions. Same thing appears everywhere. So here can we argue or can we say, oh, you are having an opinion, you are wrong, or you cannot say this, you are wrong, this particular opinion of this particular person is wrong? We cannot say. No one is wrong anywhere. Similarly, the different versions, wherever it is mentioned, not only for the Puranas, wherever we have, be it even for the Ramayana, Mahabharata or anything, wherever you find this word different versions, there should be no doubt in our mind saying that one particular version is correct, another is wrong. No, everything is correct. Everyone's way of interpretation, opinions will be different. Nobody is wrong. But a few versions become more popular. For example, the Valmiki Ramayana. Because Valmiki, it has just become popular in the course of time. Or the Ramcharitamanas by Tulsidas. Tulsi Ramayana. That has become popular. That doesn't mean that there are no other Ramayanas or all other Ramayanas, or even Kamba Ramayanam in Tamil is popular. There are so many other Ramayanas also. But they are not that much popular, or we don't know much about them. Doesn't mean that they are wrong versions or they tell some wrong story of Ram. So this is one clear, I just wanted to clear, whenever you find this word, especially in case of Puranas, we get a lot of reference saying that different versions, in particular version, this is what it is. So, okay, now we'll start looking, yes.
It is the same way in Maharashtra we chant the Ganpati Stotra. Main Sutra,
yes, correct. So like this, even in the Stotra Vangmaya also.
Vidyatilapati Vidya Dhanatilapati Dhanam Putratilapati Putra Mokshatilapati Gati. So that we do it and do our karma also. That is the way.
Yes, correct. So that is way. There are different versions. We cannot argue on anything. Okay. Now we'll start with the Brahma Purana. Now roughly I'll try to cover, I'll tell you a few stories with regards to the Brahma Purana. Now as per all the stories which I'm going to tell you now, they are all mentioned in the Brahma Purana. Now it starts with the topic of creation. I told you mainly Brahma Purana talks about cosmology or creation. So earlier there was a forest called Naimisharanya. Has anyone heard this name? In which other Purana can you find this reference?
We have
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam. Correct, correct.
Bhagavata Purana, we heard this word. So
Naimisharanya.
many stations they prayed there only. Naimisharanya.
Naimisharanya.
Yeah.
Skanda Purana also comes from.
Yes, correct. So there are references of this in different Puranas.
Because there is one
Every
Bhagavad.
Purana has a reference.
Naimisharanya. Correct. So it is Narada Purana. Correct. So there are different references wherein we have the mention of Naimisharanya. So there was a forest, Naimisharanya forest. Now, does anyone know where is Naimisharanya located?
Lucknow.
Uttar Pradesh.
Lucknow.
Uttar Pradesh.
Lucknow. Correct. So it is located in Lucknow, and there is, I think, also a temple there in UP. If you go and visit, Naimisharanyam is the name of that temple. So here in that part there was this forest wherein there were a lot of sages who were doing a sacrifice almost for about 12 years or so. And this Naimisharanya forest was mainly known for doing sacrifices. It was very pleasant. Now the climate around was you can say very suitable for doing sacrifices. There were trees all around full of flowers and fruits, and all the sages also for living, everything they had a very good arrangements that were being made. There was no shortage of food also in the forest. All animals, birds, sages, everyone was living happily there, and it was also free from devils. Now, many sages, there was a sacrifice going on, so many sages, even from outside areas, nearby areas, had also come to attend this sacrifice. And with them, Vedavyasa, Vyasa's one disciple had come. He was called Romaharshana. Romaharshana. In different references, you have the name also as Loma. L or R, both are correct. Roma, Loma. So he had also come here. And Vedavyasa had told this disciple of him all the knowledge of the Puranas. So he had instructed this disciple Loma Harshana, he had taught him all the Puranas. And all the sages there, they said that Loma Harshana, he was a very learned sage. And all the other sages who had assembled there, they told this Roma Harshana, saying that you know a lot about Puranas, so now you please tell us about Puranas. What exactly are the Puranas? What are the topics that are being told? And from that is where we have this this tradition wherein people started talking about Puranas. What are the stories of Puranas? That is the reason why the Brahma Purana is called Adi Purana. One of the ancient Puranas was from here is where this people before did not know much about Puranas. But after Roma Harshana, Vedavyasa's disciple, started talking about Puranas, people knew about them. So there all the sages question you, tell us the stories of the Puranas, who created the universe, who will destroy it, who's going to preserve it. So all these are like mysteries. So if you have studied the Vedas from if you have studied the Puranas from sage Vedavyasa himself, you have a lot of knowledge. You have come to the sacrifice, you please come and tell this. So Roma Harshana replied that many years ago Daksha Prajapati and other sages, they had asked the same question. They had asked Lord Brahma all these same questions, and whatever was Brahma's replies, that is included in the Brahma Purana, whatever was Brahma's replies to this question, who has created this world and so on, all that I have learned from my guru, that is Vedavyasa, and whatever I have learned from him, I will relate to you, I will tell you as it is. So now all the Puranas, if you see, it will always be this way, like it will not be direct speech. For example, when the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shuka, when he talks with Suta, the entire Bhagavatam, though Parikshit was being told, it is not a direct conversation, and it is not for the first time that Parikshit had asked those questions. But it was a conversation between Suta and Shuka Brahma. Similarly, here also, this Brahma Purana or the questions that have been asked, like for example, who is the creator of this world and so on, all these questions were already asked by Daksha and other sages to Brahma, and all those answers were also given by Brahma. The same thing Vedavyasa had listened, Vedavyasa had heard from Brahma, and the same thing he came and told his disciple Roma Harshana, and that now Roma Harshana is telling all his disciples. Listen to all this properly. I am giving you the names also. Now, why? What is the need of names? Now, listening to many names, many of us will get confused. But if we have to know something properly, we have to learn it with names. Of course, if you are getting confused, you can listen to the recordings too later. So now Roma Harshana starts telling all the sages whatever he had learned from his guru Vedavyasa. So he says that in the beginning, he said that there was only water everywhere. Even today, if you see, 70% of earth is full of water, remaining is land. So earlier there was just water everywhere, and it is said that Brahma, he just slept on this water in the form of Vishnu. Now that is the reason Vishnu, water, one name for water is Nara. Nara, Jalam, Nara, Toyam. So one name for water in Sanskrit is Nara. And Ayana. Ayana is a bed in Sanskrit. Bed cot on which we sleep. So Narayana, one who sleeps on the water, considering it to be a bed. Even today, Lord Vishnu, though he sleeps on the serpent, he sleeps in the middle of the ocean. So another name for Lord Vishnu, Narayana, one who sleeps on water. So that is the reason how Vishnu got this name. So in the beginning there was just water everywhere, and Brahma also, he was a part of Vishnu only. We know Brahma is born out of the navel of Vishnu as per references. So he was also a part of Vishnu. Brahma was also not born. So Vishnu was sleeping on water, and from here there emerged a golden egg, some people say. From that Brahma was born, or as I told you, from the navel of Lord Vishnu, out of a lotus, Brahma was born. Now Brahma, he created himself. He created himself. Created himself meaning nobody gave birth to him. That is why even Pakshis that are there, Pakshi birds, also in some references you find them as Swayambhu. Reason being, though they hatch from an egg, of course the egg is laid by the mother bird, but still they are not born through the womb. So only people who are born through the womb, like human beings and other living creatures, only they are not Swayambhu. That is, we are not responsible for our own creation. We give due rights to our parents. Whereas in the case of a bird, also birds are also called as Pakshi, because though the egg is hatched, though the egg is laid by the mother bird, coming out of the egg is done by the bird itself. The mother bird does not break the egg and then the child does not come out. After the egg is laid, you see, or if you have ever seen a video or even live, if you have seen birds laying eggs, we'll find that after the egg is also being laid by the mother egg, for some time or a few days, it will continuously sit on the egg, right? It takes care of the egg. So it takes some time for the young ones to hatch out from the egg. So this process is done by the young ones itself. That is why birds are also called Swayambhu. So Brahma was born by himself. Swayam is by himself. Bhu is born. So Swayambhu. So Brahma is called Swayambhu. Further.
Just one small doubt. When like snake, lizards and all, no, they lay the eggs and the hatch.
Yes, all those families. So especially those who lay eggs. Now birds most popularly we call, because we know birds lay eggs, but there are a few reptiles, as you said, snakes also, even they also fall in the same category.
Okay. Thank you.
Then for 1 year it is said that for one whole year it is said Brahma lived inside that egg only, because there was nothing outside, only water. So he lived inside that egg only. Then he split, it is said that Brahma, now all this, whatever story I am telling you, was mentioned in the Brahma Purana as it is. So then it is said that Brahma split this egg into two parts, and out of that one part he created heaven, Svargaloka, another part he created egg, earth, Bhuloka. Then skies, directions, time, sense, language, all the different things that are there, all this was created in both, in heaven as well as earth. That is why we find life even in heaven, wherein we believe that gods live, and in earth where all living creatures live. So gods also having a human body, they also have some time there, directions, kingdom, place, language, they also speak, sense. Same thing is there even on earth. So the things that are needed for livelihood, that are made both in heaven and earth. So Brahma did all this, and it is said that from the powers of his mind, or from his divine powers, he gave birth to 7 sages, that is Saptarishi. Now again, this version of Saptarishis differs. Saptarishis, some are to do with the constellations, that we have 7 constellations. So mainly, most popular 7 rishis. Does anyone know? Saptarishi.
Atri, Bhrigu.
Atri, Bhrigu, Krutta, Vasishta, Gautama, Kashyapa, Angiras.
Correct.
Yes.
this is one version. There one more version wherein one or two sages are also there. For example, Pulaha or Bhrigu, Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha or Bhrigu. Some versions has got Pulaha, some versions has got Bhrigu, whichever it is. Bhrigu is most popular, so you can consider that. Kratu and Vasishta. I repeat, Marichi, Atri, Angirasa or Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu and Vasishta. These are the 7 sages that were born out of Brahma. Then Brahma, it is said that he also further created Rudra. Now as per the Shiva Purana, this will differ. This is mentioned in the Brahma Purana. Shiva Purana, because it glorifies Shiva, it will not talk and say that Vishnu created Brahma, Brahma created Vishnu. It will go the other way around. It will say that Shiva was already existing, so nobody created Shiva. So these are all different versions that are there. Now why this is so? Again, yesterday also as we discussed, because in the Shiva Purana, we say that no, Brahma is responsible for my creation, Vishnu is responsible for my creation, that obviously means that Vishnu is one notch higher or Brahma is one notch higher than me. For example, now my parents created me, surely means their superiority is more than me. I cannot prove that I am greater than them, right? So similarly, or elders, why do we respect our elders? They are, because of them today I am there, because of my ancestors today I am alive. So that means we are giving them due respect, due credit. But the Shiva Purana, it mainly talks about Shiva as the hero. So there they cannot show someone greater than Shiva. So there it will not talk that Brahma gave birth to Rudra. But here in the Brahma Purana, this is what is mentioned, that Brahma further he created Rudra and also the Sanat Kumaras, the 4 brothers, Sanaka, Sanandana and so on. The 4 Sanat Kumaras were also born. So this is how the creation in heaven started. Now heaven is done. But what about the earth? Now Brahma started focusing on the creation part of the earth. Then he gave birth to a man and woman from his own body, Swayambhuva Manu and his wife Shatarupa. And that's how human beings started being born. Manvantara, or why Manu, that's how the word has come, Manava, Manushya. People say man, that's in English, but Sanskrit is not related to English, so therefore there is no proof. If you want, you can believe it. Manu, man, it seems to be, sounds similar, but there is no reference that it has got something to do from the roots. But yes, from Manu we have Manushyaha, Manavaha, Manujaha and so on, Martyaha. That's how we are all called human beings, mankind. That's how this name has come, because the first man was Manu. And his wife was Shatarupa. That's how human beings were started being born. Manu and Shatarupa, they had 3 sons, Veera, Priyavrata and Uttanapada. Veera, Priyavrata and Uttanapada. Out of this, the most popular was Uttanapada. Does anyone know why? You should have heard this name.
Dhruva's father.
Dhruva's father.
Sarve Panditaha, Uttamam. Dhruva's father. Dhruvatara we say, or the pole star that we find in the sky. Dhruvacharitam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Narayanyam, very very important Dashakam. Dhruva star. So Uttanapada, this king's son, was the great Dhruva. Now, as we know the story of Dhruva, he performed very difficult tapasya, and that's how for almost 3000 divine years. 3000 divine years. 1 human year is 1 day for Lord Brahma. Like that you calculate 3000 years. Small 5-year-old son, 5-year-old boy, he did tapas to Lord Vishnu there. And why did he do so? Because he was ill-treated by his stepmother, who said that no, this is, he just went to sit on his father's lap, Uttanapada's lap. Stepmother Suruchi, she pushed him away, saying that no, my son has to sit, you are not allowed to sit. The child went and cried to his mother, the first wife of Uttanapada, Sumati, saying that this is how my second mother is doing, what should I do? She told, don't do nothing, you pray to the Lord of the universe, Lord Vishnu. The boy took it so seriously, he went to the forest and started doing tapasya for 3000 divine years. Ultimately, Vishnu came, gave him darshana, told him, I will give you a permanent place in the sky in the form of the pole star. Even today in the sky you can see Dhruva. But he sent him away, saying that not now, it is 3000 divine years, of course you can calculate, but still now you are very young, you have many other duties to do, go back to the kingdom. Dhruva at that time argues, saying that why should I go back to the kingdom? Nobody respects me. My father does not like me, stepmother does not like me, they are ill-treating me, I don't want to go back. I will go to the position that you have given me. Vishnu says no, running away from your responsibilities, I will not bless any devotee. Go to the kingdom and see, now things have surely changed. Time has changed, 3000 divine years. Imagine the number of human years. You can go away, stay there, things have changed. Your father, mother, everyone will start treating you nicely. Please go and see. You have many other duties to do. You have to take care of your kingdom, your own family. Ensure that your lineage is still built. Otherwise, your family gets ended there. Dhruva listened to Lord Vishnu, went back to the kingdom, did all his duties, took care of his kingdom properly. He got married, begetted sons, did everything, finished all his duties. Then again came back. Then he attained the position. When he died, took up sannyas ashrama, he attained the position of the pole star. Why I am telling you all this so much in detail? So much detail is not mentioned in the Brahma Purana. It's just mentioned in one line. Dhruva attains an eternal place in the sky. Why I told you this is a great learning for all of us. Some people have this so-called dialogues. I'm going to leave everything, go to the forest, go to the Himalayas, do tapas. Leaving aside our duties and doing something, God will also never bless us. Or some people very proudly say, no, 3-4 hours in a day, nobody should disturb me, I'm just into puja and all other things. Giving up our own duties and then you take care of God, that is nothing. It's of no use. God himself tells in the Dhruva Charitam that to imagine Dhruva, 3000 divine years he has done tapas. Still God sends him away. Vishnu sends him away. Say, first you do your duties. You have been given birth by me. I have given you birth. So it's not just a play. It's not just for whiling away time, right? You have some purpose here. That's why you have been given birth. Just because you had some sorrows or problems, you prayed to me, I blessed you, doesn't mean that I take your life and you just run away from your duties. No. Everyone has to go through that. So, very, very great learning through all of us. Dhruva Charitam is, of course, the divine part of Dhruva, his worship, his devotion towards Lord Vishnu, that all is fine. But in spite of all that we do, you worship God throughout the day, you go to any temple, everything. What ultimately matters is doing our duty first. Now, you decline our own duties and say, no, I cannot do this, I will not do this, be it personal life, professional life, family life, whatever it is. Duties are first. That is why it is said service to man is service to God. God does not consider anything else. Krishna tells the same thing in Bhakti Yoga, chapter 12 to Arjuna. Says, you do your duty, that is more than enough. That I will consider as bhakti and bless you. You need not go out of the way and do something else. But most of us, we lack here only. We very proudly say, no, 5-6 hours in a day I dedicate to Lord. I do puja, nobody should come disturb me, this and that. But at the same time, we will decline our own household duties. Child comes and asks something, we'll drive it away. Say, no, don't come and disturb me, go away. Right? So there, we lack so much in our everyday life. If we do our everyday duties properly, that itself is equal to devotion. God himself considers. I am not mentioning this. Bhagavad Gita, also one more reference you have, the Brahma Purana, through the story of Dhruva. Okay. Now, with this, Dhruva Charitam ends here. And further, Dhruva is made the pole star. So like this, Brahma starts with his creation, he continues with creation. Further, in Dhruva's line, after Dhruva we say Uttanapada, then Manu, son was Uttanapada, next was Dhruva. Next line is now Prachina Barhi. Prachina Barhi or Prachina Varhi, verb. In India we know Vrindavan. So both are correct. Vrinda, it can be anything. So Prachina Varhi, it is said that he had 10 sons. They were called the 10 Prachetas. Now these Prachetas, as we know, after every lineage, a king's son, as a son is born, he is supposed to rule the kingdom, right? But these 10 Prachetas who were there, they were not interested in ruling a kingdom. So instead they went off and they decided to do tapasya. So they said, no, we are not interested in taking care of the kingdom and people, get into all this. Instead we'll do tapasya and be happy. So they were detached right from the time they were born, all the 10 of them. And this tapasya, it is said that it went on for almost 10,000 years. But now, if the earth has not got any ruler, now you see in those times, today for a particular state or for a particular kingdom, we have kings, right? For example, the Mysore king, or you go to the Middle East, I think they have still the rulership that is there. Dubai and all those such places. But in those times, now earth, you imagine Manu was the first man, then you have Uttanapada, then you have Dhruva. Fourth was Prachina Barhi, fifth is Prachetas. You have just 5 generations that are done. So there will not be a lot of people, right? Therefore, the entire earth had only one ruler. But now the Prachetas, they decided that we don't want to become the king. So therefore, the earth did not have a ruler. There was no king. Now, if there is no king, no ruler, everything goes about here and there. And the earth began to suffer. people started to die, whoever people were there, because they didn't have a ruler, they did not have proper amenities, facilities, nothing. Everywhere thick forests started growing. There was no development. Today we have a lot of land that is remote, but in those times there was no land, nothing. You have just thick forests everywhere and water everywhere. And the forests, they became so thick because there was no cutting, nothing being done properly, no management being done, that even the winds also, it is said that they could not blow properly. Such was the thick forest, or such thick the trees were being grown. So the situation was very, very bad, and the world was in need of a new ruler. So the Prachetas, they did not do this. They stopped. They said that no, we don't want to rule the world, we want to do tapasya. Further, what happens, we'll see that in the next session.